Welcome to everybody who's joining us on the Zoom meeting. Welcome to everybody who's watching live on YouTube, and welcome to everybody who will watch a recording of this after the fact. We have had a fantastic series of sessions over the past few days as part of our virtual trade mission to Israel. This is the 6th and the final session. It feels a little bit like mile 26 of a marathon, but it has been a fantastic experience. For those that are joining for the first time, our first session was Monday morning. We did a doing business in Israel overview the Consul General Hillel Newman provided. We then did a tech and innovation session with Adiv Baruch, who is a pioneer of the tech ecosystem in Israel. Yesterday morning, we did a session on defense and security with the former top Israeli counterterrorism official. And we also did a session with the head of Israeli water security on water technologies, solutions that Israel's finding and ways that Utah companies with technologies could help with that, can engage in Israel. Just this morning, we finished up a session on healthcare innovation with Asaf Barnea, who runs Sonara Ventures, an investment fund in healthcare innovation, as well as heading up the Life Science Council for the Israeli Export Organization. And now here we are. We have on the line today many Utah companies, many Israeli companies, and then we also have all the partner organizations, both in Utah and in Israel, that work very hard to build strong trade and investment relationships between Utah and Israel. What that means is we've had a lot of good conversations the past few days, but when it comes to follow-up and taking action, it's on us on this call today to work together to build relationships and to make sure that we use all of this, all these discussions, all of these sessions to prompt positive action that wouldn't have occurred had we not gone through this effort over the past few days. And so today we have an opportunity to hear for our Israeli friends and partners. They'll have an opportunity to hear more about Utah, what makes Utah the best economy in the United States, and what programs and organizations exist here to help Israeli companies come to Utah to thrive and to use Utah as a base of growth across the United States. We'll have a chance to hear from a couple of Israeli companies that have been here in Utah for years and are doing very, very well. And so they can get that firsthand perspective on why Utah is such a great place for Israeli companies to come and to be a part of here in our ecosystem. We'll then have a chance to hear from key leaders in Israel, both from the Federation Chambers of Commerce as well as from the Bird Foundation, which is an organization that provides grant funding to essentially joint ventures between Israeli and U.S. Tech companies. And so companies can form a joint venture and get up to half of their funding from the Bird Foundation. And so that is an incredible catalyst of new trade and investment relationships between U.S. and Israeli companies. It's something we'd like to see more Utah companies taking advantage of. And so we've got a great program. Look forward to having a discussion. You'll notice that we're structuring this as a meeting, so anybody can turn on their video, they can unmute themselves, and they can participate as if we were sitting around a conference table here at the World Trade Center in Salt Lake City, or if we were meeting in Tel Aviv. And so we encourage people to do that. And now I'd like to jump into the program. Ron Zamir is the CEO of Allen Communications and the chairman of Utah-Israel Economic Council. He's a fantastic partner organization with this entire virtual trade mission. We'll have a chance to hear from him for a few minutes, some introductory remarks. But before I kick it to you, Ron, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our other partners on this virtual trade mission. Very grateful for the Consul General of Israel in Los Angeles. We've got Dr. Hillel Newman on with us today, as well as the Governor's Office of Economic Development. We've got Franz Kolb, who we will hear from in a little bit, as well as Ben Hart, the Deputy Director of GoEd. And so we're grateful for all of our partners. It's a team effort on both the Utah side and Israeli side. And through our partnership, we've been able to come up with a set of really great meetings. And so with that introduction and welcome, Ron, I'll go ahead and pass the baton over to you.
Thank you, Miles. Yeah, and again, I want to mirror those thanks. This event has been amazing. The quality of the speakers, the participants, the different channels that we're offering this content. And it couldn't have happened without, Miles, your team, Courtney, Jim, on some of the other events we've done around military. So really thank you all. And again, in Hillel, you helped us get some amazing speakers. Franz, we're really, really thankful, and I'm extremely impressed. So the Utah-Israeli Economic Council, which I am proud to be part of, there are other members of our council who will be speaking later, was really formed to support what we see as a growing ecosystem between Israel and Utah. just from my own very uh, egotistical point of view, the Israeli population is growing in Utah, and believe it or not, that's a good thing, right? That you can find falafel in Israel. Hummus exists in almost every supermarket. We still haven't have a good place to get shakshuka, but if somebody texts me later, I can tell you more about that. So the facts are that not only has Utah governors been in Israel multiple times, but we as a council are a combination of local business people that really support that ecosystem. For those that don't know, you'll hear more. Utah has become a target for Israeli companies, both as investors. I came as part of an investment in a Utah company, but also for innovation. My own company, Alencom, has both provided Israeli companies with technology, but also received that technology. And we're also recipients of a bird grant of close to $1 million between the two partners. So there's a lot of good things that are happening besides the culinary scene, and that Israelis love to hike, and we are very comfortable having a Jordan River here, Mount Nebo. There's a lot of stuff. Moab is not that far away. But the reality is that in our group, we put together lawyers, accountants, business people, different people that can support both an Israeli when they get on the phone and say, hey, we're looking at Utah as a potential place to establish an office or a company. Can you tell us what it is like to live in Utah? Or the opposite, Utah companies that join us on these missions, get money through the different funds that exist between our two countries, but also find in Israel amazing innovation. And that helps them, that helps the Israeli company. And of course, for us, it helps create, a greater ecosystem. So I'll put our website in chat. Please feel comfortable. I'll also put my personal email if you want to reach out with any questions. We're looking for more companies to join our group. And hopefully once COVID ends or when we have a vaccine, we'll be taking a group of companies to Israel. We try to do it on a yearly basis. And of course, joining the next governor's mission as well. So again, Miles, thank you to your team. It's been amazing. And I'll pass it back on to you guys.
Great. Thank you, Ron, for that. We really appreciate it. Now I've got an opportunity to introduce a close partner and friend of mine, Ben Hart. Ben is the Deputy Director of the Governor's Office of Economic Development, but he's so much more than that. He's a top advisor to our legislative leaders, a top advisor to the governor on economic issues, works very, very closely with Utah's aerospace and defense industry, has been focused on building that for several years and has been very, very successful. Had a chance to go to the Paris Air Show with Ben and the governor and Franz and others last year. And Ben had, 12 meetings every single day lined up with the biggest aerospace and defense companies and C-suite leaders of those companies over the course of the Paris Air Show. And so Ben is a phenomenal asset and resource to all of us here in the state of Utah. And so we're fortunate and grateful to you, Ben, that you take time out of your busy day to talk to us a little bit about what Israeli companies can experience when they come here to Utah, what makes Utah so great, and also to show our Why Utah video. So Ben, I'll go ahead and pass the baton over to you.
Well, yeah, and I'll just speak briefly before introducing the video, but it's an honor to be here. The partnership between Israel and the state of Utah is probably better and longer than most people are aware of, and probably better than any other state in the country. And that's something that we're very, very proud of. And so we had hoped, it was mentioned a little bit earlier, that Governor Herbert has been to Israel multiple times during his tenure, and we were actually hoping to take him again this year. The pandemic, unfortunately, did not allow us to do that, but we're hoping that whoever the next governor is, they will make Israel one of their top priorities. And so this partnership is critical for us. And so we look at the industries that we share in common, the innovation, the belief, the culture, the communities. There's so much by way of partnership that we find in common with Israel and Utah. And so it is still a great time to be doing business in Utah, thankfully. Things are still moving and we are still open for business. And I think we're handling the COVID pandemic just better than just about anywhere else. So to give you just a little bit of a taste, we wanted to first play a video. It's kind of our Why Utah video. And then I'll explain just a little bit about the Utah economy, some of our incentives, and some of the other opportunities that we have to do business here in the state of Utah. So Hannah, if you've got the control, do you want to roll that video?
This is Utah, the state known as the Crossroads of the West. This is the place where people and companies come to play.
And we play with the strategy to win.
First, the country's eastern and western railroads connected in Utah. Then, new connections developed through interstates, telecommunication lines, and airports. Utah has been and will continue to be at the crossroads of it all. Utah's highways connect to Canada, Mexico, and other major domestic markets. Trains, roads, airports, and broadband help us export $12 billion annually in goods and services. Salt Lake City International Airport is undergoing a self-funded $3.6 billion reconstruction, with new terminals coming online in 2020. Next door, we're creating an 11,000-acre inland port. And just 30 minutes south, 20,000 acres will be developed at the point of the mountain.
These three Utah developments will increase international trade and investment opportunities while setting a new standard in global connectivity.
Did you know Utah was the fourth node of the original internet? No wonder mega users from eBay to Facebook to the National Security Agency have spent billions building data centers here. Utah has America's youngest median age. Each year, our world-renowned research universities graduate thousands of skilled engineers, MBAs, and computer scientists. We're also the most multilingual state, with residents who speak more than 130 languages. Our young, educated entrepreneur workforce finds creative solutions to any business challenge. Did you know Goldman Sachs' second largest North American office is in Utah? And that Adobe is doubling its Silicon Slopes campus. Our diverse economy is anchored in financial services, information technology, aerospace and defense, energy, life sciences, and outdoor products, each with industry employment indexes above the national average. Since 2010, Utah has been ranked a top 3 best state for business by Forbes. That includes 6 #1 spots.
It's that kind of consistency and stability that you can expect when you bring businesses here. But Utah's more than that.
Many states boast of their quality of life. With the greatest snow on earth and our mighty 5 national parks, it's clear Mother Nature played favorites with Utah. Our public lands provide unrivaled access to the outdoors, with many places to enjoy and experience iconic Western landscapes. In town, there's a flourishing food, drink, and entertainment scene. Each year, we play host to the Sundance Film Festival. And we hope to welcome the world again at the 2030 Olympic Winter Games.
We've enjoyed unparalleled economic success. We've created more private sector jobs per capita than any other state. And we have the most diverse economy in the nation. And this isn't just a flash in the pan. It's sustainable economic development that comes from staying the course, providing fertile soil for job growth and a pro-business environment. Utah is large enough to support business growth and nimble enough to get things done. We succeed because we collaborate and find common ground, not just to solve problems, but to prevent them. We lead the nation in volunteerism and charitable giving. Utah's social cohesion is no accident. It's due to our commitment to partnership. It's the key ingredient in Utah's secret sauce. I invite you to experience Utah for yourself and see why people choose to live, work, and prosper here. Come witness Utah's exceptional quality of life and dynamic business environment. Come experience Life Elevated.
Thank you, Hannah. So I'll just continue forward. So it is fascinating. I think when you look at the other 50 states, you're going to hear a similar pitch. You're going to see similar things. They're going to talk about logistics. They're going to talk about incentives and all of that. What separates Utah, in my opinion, I get a chance to see behind the scenes day to day with how the state of Utah conducts itself, handles its business. It really is phenomenal. I think this has really been exacerbated by the coronavirus. And it's been amazing to me just how innovative the state has gotten when it comes to fighting this pandemic. And so we did have a little bit of an increase, but unlike those other states that have really started to hit a hockey stick, the state of Utah is actually starting to come down now. We've got the lowest mortality rate in the country. One of the reasons we do is because we're testing more. And there's been the notion out there that if we tested less, we would have better results. We found that by testing everyone who wants to test, we would be able to get on top of this pandemic in a much more versatile and quick fashion. And so our lieutenant governor, who's currently the Republican nominee for the governor's office in a very Republican state, but he took control and he kind of made it his mission to ensure that we had enough tests where there was shortages, not only nationally, but internationally. He drove us to find innovative, homegrown solutions and unique partnerships, international partnerships, to come up with all the testing equipment and the testing capabilities that we would need. And so we were looking at everything, where other states were, I think, really dependent on the federal response, or were trying to find just sourcing things from other countries. We got really, really innovative, and we're able to work with some international capabilities, with some neighboring states, and we put together a solution where we're now developing a lot of those capabilities in the state. So we've outperformed our peers in terms of testing, and that has really allowed us to get ahead of the pandemic in a lot of ways. And we've also been reliant on our manufacturing industry here in the state of Utah to make masks. And so we've made 2.3 million masks, almost one per person in the state, is we're just over 3 million people, from our Utah manufacturers who had to pivot. And we had that all done within about a month and a half. And so we kind of pride ourselves on innovation, being able to come up with the best responses. But again, it's bearing itself out when we look at other states. When we compare Utah to other places, we really do have the best state government in the country. There's no question about that. But aside from that, our industry, and we really do put a lot of emphasis on the private sector for job creation and other things. And so our industry and our private sector here in the Utah is poised for better growth than anywhere else in the country. We've got the top 5 tech sector in terms of per capita employment rates here in Utah. We've also got a ton of defense-related development happening in northern Utah. But all of it, and one of our key mantras, one of our great CEOs in Utah, Aaron Sconard, the CEO of Pluralsight, always says, every company is going to be a tech company. That's the reality. So if that's our mantra, and we know if that's where the puck is going to, then how do we get there before the rest of the country does? And the reality is, if we're getting our kids better educated, if we look at that entire ecosystem, including transportation and infrastructure, if we're designing around this concept of innovation and technology, how do we make sure that everything else is lining up with that? And so in Utah, what we've seen start to emerge are a lot of these little subsectors of tech, things like health technology, roots technology, even with ancestry and genealogy, certainly financial technology, fintech. We've had a lot of fintech growth here in the state. One of the big emerging sectors right now is defense tech. And so how we're making sure that we're supporting the Department of Defense and our partner countries in terms of what our defense technology is. And as a perfect example of that, one of the great partnerships between the United States and Israel is the F-35. And I think the technology on that plane bears itself out. It really is phenomenal. And the number of vendors that we have to have as we look at national and international partners is phenomenal. But the heartbeat of that plane is the technology. It really is phenomenal. And so technology is definitely the way that things are moving. So again, that's where we're looking at how do we line up transportation? How do we line up education? How do we line up everything within that ecosystem, and including our incentives? And so over the past few years, we've really made a concerted effort to look at how do we bring more companies to Utah. We have been, I think, on the forefront nationally of deregulating our business environment here, making sure, as Governor Herbert says, we stay off your back and out of your wallet. And how do we just let the private sector do what it needs to do? So we're very much free market capitalists in that sense. But even with our incentive programs, we've been looking more and more at life sciences, health technology, all these other types of technology companies that probably 20 years ago may not have been a technology company. We look at companies like Ancestry.com that has grown in Utah. We look at companies like Northrop Grumman around Hill Air Force Base. They decided to put their ground-based strategic deterrent program office there. The Department of Defense has also located the GBSD program in northern Utah. And so, again, a technology-based defense platform. Even within commercial aviation, we're seeing more and more of a movement towards technology. Just recently, we had David Neilman, who was the CEO of JetBlue and Azul in Europe. He decided to start a new airline, and he's actually based the headquarters here in Salt Lake City. He calls it the Uber of the skies. And so within all of these industries, we see this movement towards tech, and we see Utah kind of rising up to meet that demand with all of the necessary capabilities. So in the state, we do have a robust incentives program. It is on sturdy ground. It's not going anywhere. It has been the backbone of our corporate recruitment efforts for the last 15 years. It's helped us get companies like Adobe to the state, Procter & Gamble, and about 200 other companies to the state of Utah. And so it allows us to provide an income tax rebate to businesses that are coming to the state of Utah. The projects do have to be in competition. So it can be a company that's already located here, or it can be an international company like Stadler Rail or many of the other international companies that we've had relocate to the state. And it's 30%, up to 30% over 20 years of a rebate for your performance. And so it's based on new jobs created. It does require that at least 50 jobs be created as part of the project. And then also we have several local incentives that can play a role with regards to property tax that is dependent on the municipality. But there are definitely opportunities for us to be able to help partner and make sure that the project is going to make sense from a dollars and cents perspective. And so we really value our partnership with Israel. We see a lot of the innovation and technology-based companies overseas and specifically in Israel. And we think that's a great opportunity to help partner on helping to create new jobs here in the state of Utah, and also hopefully corresponding growth within companies overseas as well. So that's a brief snapshot of what's happening here in the state of Utah. I will post my email in the chat. If anybody wants to reach out, we're happy to have discussions and further these conversations. But again, Miles, I just want to acknowledge you for your good efforts in bringing everyone together. The World Trade Center is an incredible partner. And Miles, we're lucky to have Miles here in the state of Utah. We stole him from the White House. And so we're very fortunate to have him here in the state of Utah. But please reach out if there's anything we can do to create or foster new partnerships between the state and any companies that may be interested. So
thank you so much, Ben. We appreciate that. So we are going to have two companies that are going to present for 5 minutes each. The first speaker is Hadar Karen, who's the Director of Corporate Development at NICE in Contact, which is a cloud-based agent and customer experience platform that works with organizations of all sizes, and he will give us a 5-minute presentation on his company. And then we'll have Shai Lustgarten, who's the CEO of Quest Solutions, which is a leading provider in the mobile computing industry. They provide software and integration solutions. The supply chain companies use Quest to reduce inventory, improve operations, and empower mobile workers to get the right information at the right time. So if each of you could go, why don't you go ahead, Hadar, and get started for us? Thanks so much.
Sure, thanks, Courtney. Probably less interested to hear more about NICE than our experience here in Utah, so I'll focus more on that. For the Israelis on the line, probably familiar with NICE, one of the larger tech companies coming out of Israel. So a 30-plus-year-old company, but always being innovative. And our affair with Salt Lake City, or Utah, started 4 years ago when we decided that being an on-premise software company is a thing of the past and we need to move to the cloud. We looked at the leaders in the market and found that InContact, a company based in Sandy, right outside of Salt Lake, is a leader in that field. They were already public and quite large. And so we made the largest acquisition of our history, $1 billion acquisition of a public company. And that was 4 years ago. Following that acquisition, I moved here to help with integration. Unlike many cases where you may know of acquisitions that went bad or at least didn't fulfill the expectations, this is the exact opposite. The company actually doubled in size since the acquisition. There were about 700 or 800 employees when we made the acquisition in 2016. We are now almost at 1,500. It's a great place to recruit and have a great talent pool, both from local universities. There are more than a couple here, as well as a growing tech industry that, in other places is constantly fertilizing the ground for additional people moving into the area from other places with higher cost, like the Silicon Valley, as well as moving from one company to the other. So it's still a good place to recruit, although competition is growing for talent, but that's, I guess, for employees moving here, that's a benefit. You may have heard it in the video, but the place is now being called the Silicon Slopes, somewhat similar to our Silicon Wadi in Israel or the Silicon Valley in California. But it is a place where both cost of living is still not too high, and it's a great place to migrate or move your workforce to. But also the quality of life is very high. So it's sometimes they go together. With the high quality of life, you need to expect the growing cost of living, but here it's still manageable and a great place to combine both. Everybody that's interested in the outdoors will definitely have a great time here, from biking and hiking to skiing in the winter. I know some of you may have concerns about just being in Israel. I'll put it on the table of a place that may be too conservative or too small or too rural. That's definitely not the case. There's a pretty vibrant scene here for local music, multiple local breweries and distilleries, and every kind of culture type of experience that you can want or expect in a large metropolitan. So as Ron said earlier, we're still at the stage where more Israelis will be welcomed. I think it's going to be a beautiful community in the coming years.
Thank you, Hadar. Appreciate that. Shai?
Hi, thanks, Courtney. So first, thank you for letting me participate in this very exciting event. Enjoyed all the sessions. Actually, the first time I really participated in all sessions. But before I begin, I got to be very honest with you. I mean, when we first spoke and you invited me to participate in this event, my immediate response was no way, because I really didn't want anyone to destroy our little piece of heaven here, and didn't want to contribute for people coming over. But no, seriously, I'll share with you some of my personal experience. In 2014, I was a CEO back then of an Israeli company. We decided to acquire one of our competitors here in Salt Lake City. As a family, we decided a year after to relocate to Salt Lake City, mainly because the target market of our company was the U.S. market, and I don't believe much in remote controlling a business from Israel. When you try to penetrate the U.S. market, you got to be a U.S. company, and you got to do it from the U.S. We immediately found Utah to be an amazing place, a place us as a family we quickly came to call home. As an Israeli, we heard a lot in the sessions. We are very warm people, dynamic, and we're looking for kind of the same environment to make us feel comfortable. This is exactly what we found here in Utah. People that welcome you with open arms and making you feel right at home. From the business aspects, I couldn't have asked for anything better. You can feel the innovation and the entrepreneurship feeling in the air anywhere you go. The government is very welcoming and provide personal attention, personal support for anything me as a business operator needs. These are not just words that I'm saying. These are facts. This great business environment resulted in several personal significant achievements. We established the first company, Teamtronics, in 2016 here in Salt Lake City. We then acquired Quest Solution, which is an Oregon-based company in 2017, and quickly relocated all of its operation here to Utah. We completed the design, development of a machine vision technology that is based on artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities. And as an Israeli, and we heard also in the sessions, I'm fully aware of the technological innovations in the field of machine vision in Israel, which resulted in the acquisition of an Israeli company, HTS, in 2018. And today actually, I mean, we migrated all of the operation, and we're running it here from Salt Lake City. And 30 major airports, including Salt Lake City Airport, are using our systems, our products, US border crossing points, many municipalities throughout the nation, and 500 Fortune customers as well. We are actually running an international operation headquartered here in Utah with an R&D team that we still have in Israel. All in all, I must say that I never had planned to live my life here in Utah, and probably because I never could have come up with such an amazing plan. Utah does offer an amazing flexibility that all businesses require to succeed, I think. Financial resources, incentives, labor, human capital suitable to many verticals, logistically very well positioned, and many more aspects that make Utah just a great place to have a business in. In addition, the UIEC organization that Ron established, and I'm a part of, offers a unique platform for both Israeli companies and Utah companies to use as a bridge to overcome hurdles in conducting international business and transactions. To conclude, I'm very grateful of the opportunity I was given to conduct my business here in Utah. I also wanted to take this opportunity and to thank you, Miles, Courtney, and the whole team, and to my close friend, Mr. Franz Kolb, for all the amazing work you're all doing in making this happen. There is a huge collaboration potential between the state of Israel and Utah. We're not even scratching yet the surface of it. And what you guys are doing creates the infrastructure for this to be a reality. So thank you very much. That's it from my end.
Thank you so much, Shai. Really appreciate it. Franz? Oh, we can't hear you. We need to unmute you.
Good morning. Shalom, everyone. My name is Franz Kolb. I'm the Director for International Trade and Diplomacy in the state of Utah, and I have the distinct pleasure to introduce my good friend, Mr. Zev Lavi from Israel. So I do the formal introduction very quickly. Zev is the Vice President of International Relations and Business Development in the International Relations Division of the Federation of Israeli Chambers of Commerce. He serves as the Vice President, and so just for your information, the Federation of Israeli Chambers of Commerce is a leading economic organization representing the trade and service sectors. The FICC serves as the roof organization of over 5,000 businesses and organizations operating in more than 120 divisions, which represent various economic branches, including export, import, trade, real estate, financial, and business services. SEF's responsibilities include assisting senior executives of leading Israeli companies to penetrate new markets or expand their business operations in existing markets, organizing conference and presentations, other business development activities. Now, I need to tell you that I consider SEF my friend. I have been over there in Israel many times. He gets stuff done. Sev, those of you that speak Hebrew means wolf, and he charges forward and helps us. I want to thank him and his organization for hosting us when we were over there with our governor. I've been over there with several governors, and he's a bridge builder, a gentleman, and a scholar, and I hold him in very high regards. At the very last moment, I'd just like to mention also a good friend, Dov Raviv, who has helped us over the years as well in building this bridge, now a big bridge between Utah and Israel. With this in mind, ladies and gentlemen, a warm Utah welcome to my good friend, Mr. Zev Lavi.
Thank you, friends. I feel like a celebrity now. You just you took it to the top, but there's only downhill from here. But thank you very much, friends. And I was, first of all, it was so good to see you. It's been a while. And I was just telling everybody here that when France came to Israel, I think it was in 2012 or 2013, just before the governor came. And so he came and it was just at a time where we had a bit of security issues here, and he had missiles going over Tel Aviv. We have those, unfortunately, from time to time, and France was in a very unique, let's say, place where we kind of got to experience that. I don't know if it's not a good thing, but it was, and nevertheless they came, and the governor came, and it was just a testimony of how much this relationship between Utah and Israel is strong. And I'm happy again to be, even though that I'm in Tel Aviv, to be here with you guys in Utah. I'm just going to share a screen here and share this presentation with you. I don't have much time, but I do want to show you some slides and also say a few words about what I'm going to talk about. So, as Fran said, I'm the VP International for the FICC. We're the biggest and oldest business organization in Israel. And we're basically, very much similar to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. We work on advocacy and policy with our government and with our local authorities and parliament, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to go into that because I have only 5 minutes. So I'm going to be very, very quick. And basically, we do on our international aspects, we do very much anything that every trade promotion organization is doing. So we're hosting a delegation when it's not Corona time. We're doing business matchmaking, seminars, events, today webinars, and basically we're doing trade promotions activities. And we work with, obviously, with our embassies, whether it's our Ministry of Foreign Affairs or Ministry of Economy. And this is where I thank Hillel, our Consul General in LA, that invited us to this event. And also I saw that Moran is our economic consular for the West Coast, was doing a great job. So I think that Israel is being represented very strongly in your area by very capable people, and I'm very glad that they're here. I'm just going to say a few words before I'm going to go straight into my conversation. And what I'm going to talk today is going to be a little bit different from what you heard so far. And I'm talking mainly to the people here in Utah and to the Utah companies. So a lot of the Israeli companies and a lot of the activity that you have in North America with Israel is about innovation and startups, and how Israel is very good and very advanced in innovation and tech. And the majority of Israeli companies are interested in the US, are interested in either market or investments. And this is where different states are coming to Israel and trying to attract mostly companies from the tech to come and relocate to their areas. There's not a lot of big factories in Israel. It's not Germany or Japan. There's not really a lot of companies are moving their operation and then hiring, creating jobs for thousands. But you do have a lot of tech companies who are coming, and we heard a few of them just before, which is great. And obviously, throughout this events that you had, you heard how much Israel is advanced in technology and innovation. I'm not going to talk about that. What I'm going to talk is a little bit different. It's more about trade. We're talking about import, export, and I'm just going to focus, and this is why I was invited. I can talk about it, but I want to talk a little bit about the Israeli market. And I want to show a different point of view. I want to show why Israel is a market for Utah companies, and why companies from Utah need to look at Israel not only as a country where you can source amazing technology and do a technological joint venture, but also look at it as a market for their export. So I'm just going to say that during the trade relations between Israel and the United States was always in a trade deficit with Israel. So Israel always exports more to the United States than it imports. We have free trade agreement with the United States, so there's no customs, a lot of different treaties. So it's very easy to do trade, but we still do export more than we import. And Israel, and what I want to show you is 5 reasons why you need to look at Israel as an export destination. So first of all, and going back to the United States, Israel is the #1 export destination of American companies in the Middle East, and the 25th export trading partners of the US totally, by absolute numbers worldwide. So that's a big number. Now, why do you need to look at Israel as an export destination? First of all, we have a very, very strong economy. So, in the last decade, our economy more than doubled itself. We have a very high GDP per capita, more than 40,000. So our GDP per capita is actually just surpassed. Everything is pre-corona figures, yeah. But we just passed Japan, more than Spain, more than many other Western economic countries. Now, I have to tell you that Israel is a World WTO, OECD country, very strong economy. Our GDP per capita is very strong. Our unemployment before the corona was 4%, one of the lowest unemployment rates in the world. And in fact, in 2008, 2009, we were one of the only economies that actually grew 3.5% yearly. So our GDP is growing yearly every year for the last decade. And it's a sustainable economy, sustainable growth. Our internal and external debt, again, before Corona, was very, very low. We have a AA+ rating from S&P and Moody's. So you have a big trust from all the credit companies, and it's a very sustainable economy. Another reason is the fact that we have a very quite high population. So a lot of people look at Israel, think of Israel as a small market, and it is a small market, but Israel is a 9 million in population. If I'm not including the, let's say, the West Bank, Palestine, whatever you want to call it, which is another 4 million people, that a lot of the imports to those, that region, to that areas is coming from Israel. So we're talking about 9 million people in population, but unlike many other Europeans and even Asian countries where the population is decreasing, Israel population is actually increasing, and we're going to be the only Western country is going to double itself. So in 2050, the Israel economy is going to be 17 million people. So if we are now like Denmark, like Austria in population, where in 2050 their population is going to decrease, our population is going to double itself. That's a very good number to be in. As I mentioned before, we are a very much developed economy. So it's Israeli consumers and Israeli economy is very developed, very competitive, crowded, and sophisticated. So you can find here all the, to those of you who haven't been here, it's a very sophisticated market. You can find here all the brands. People are buying online. whatever you know from the States, I'm not going to compliment us that much. We're still a little bit, a couple of years behind, but I'm saying that whatever you find in the States, whatever you find in other markets, sophisticated market worldwide, you can find it in Israel. Not a lot of people know that. A lot of people think, you know, sometimes, you know, that people don't know Israel. They think that, okay, it's some country in the desert. And we have a very strong purchasing power. So if you look at Israel, it's like an island. Basically, we're like an island economy. We don't really trade with our neighboring partners. So we're highly dependent on foreign trade. Until recently, we didn't have any natural resources, so we needed to import a lot. So our industry was a very, we're very much export market. We import a lot. So almost 50% of every dollar of goods that we export is originated in import. So whether it's machinery or raw materials for the industry, we need that and we import that. And the majority of our import actually comes from EU. This is where American companies can compete with EU countries, with EU manufacturers and suppliers. And we have a very strong currency. In fact, if it wasn't to manipulations of our central bank, our currency would be one of the strongest currencies. So we have strong purchasing power and ability to purchase in a very strong currency. Another point is that we have a very good business culture. So Israel is considered to be the 51st state. Many times this is how we're being told. And you know, everybody speaks very good English here. We're very much Americanized here. As I mentioned before, early adapters, very good legal system. So it's a very good place to do business, very organized place to do business. Another reason why you should look at Israel as an export destination is that it's very easily logistic. So if you want to export, many of the Israeli exporters, you know, they always look on the big market. They want the States, they want Germany, China, etc. And that's, you know, usually what exporters and companies want. But if you look at that, the ROI is, you know, the investment for exporting into big markets is actually quite high many times. Where you come to a mid-sized market like Israel, for instance, it's actually quite low. So the ROI is very, very good for you, because you don't need to find, like, let's say in Germany, you need to find one distributor in Munich, another distributor in Berlin. In Israel, 70% of the population is very concentrated. If you have a strong connection, you have a strong distributor, reseller, agent, whatever, you can very easily cover the entire state. So it's a very easy penetration relatively. Once you penetrate, you're able to sell, and as I mentioned before, it's a very strong economy. You can do very good business in Israel. Yeah, I have a minute, so I'm just gonna skip very, very quickly. So just these are some of the sectors where American companies can come to Israel and sell. And you said before, there's a lot of medical equipment and healthcare. So I'm just going to touch on this. I can touch on other sectors and give you facts and figures. I just don't have any time. But for instance, healthcare. It's you know, not, even though we have a very strong healthcare innovation, 95% of our healthcare and medical equipment is imported. Israel has a national healthcare law. Everybody are insured. We have a very big healthcare basket that the government is subsidizing in medical equipment and pharmaceuticals. So it's a very, very strong market. One of the highest expenditure per capita for healthcare in the world. So that's a very good market to come and work in. And I always say that Israel is chewing the price of one. If you're a company, you can come to Israel both to see innovation and see tech, but also you can look at it as an export destination. So this is why it's so good to come and visit and experience. These are some of the areas where Israel is very, very strong in terms of our export, and I'm going to skip that because I just don't have any time. So just a little bit of our work interfaces, things that you can use us, which is basically exposure to the Israeli business community in our network. We're very strongly networked here, both on the public sector, government, tenders, etc. That's another point that I didn't touch the point. But Israel is going to a huge undertake of projects on infrastructure, energy, clean energy, etc. We need foreign supplies. We need foreign companies to come and do those projects. highways, etc. So these are great opportunities for American companies. Sourcing Israeli companies in tech, you can use us. We can help you find technologies and companies. And obviously, if you want to export to Israel and you're looking for distributors, you can come to us. We have a very big business data center. We have a business matchmaking for foreign companies, which is free. And a lot of partnerships in helping American companies to help. We have a business opportunity system. I'm going to be very, very brief about that. And with me is Hadass. Here we go. I'm just going to stop sharing. Hadass, can you maybe show yourself a little bit so everybody can see? So Hadass works with me. She's in charge of our work with the US. And she visited Utah just recently and enjoyed it, loved it. So we're very much excited to be here. And
we're getting that Oscar music. They want us off the stage.
Okay, so. Okay. So I'm done.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sam. We really appreciate it.
We're going to write our emails in the chat room so you can contact us later. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you both so much. Appreciate it. So we are going to move on to talking about the Bird Foundation and funding options for you as companies. A brief introduction of Maya Vardi-Shoshani. She's the Director of Business Development for the West Coast for the Bird Foundation, which, as Miles mentioned previously, was set up by the U.S. and Israeli governments to fund and develop industrial research and development partnerships between companies from both countries on a project-specific basis. I won't get into the details because I imagine Maya will. Maya is located in Silicon Valley, and she's responsible for initiating business matchmaking activities between Israeli and American companies. She does business development and relationship management for West Coast high-tech companies, as well as strategic growth. Prior to Bird, she was an attorney focusing on litigation, negotiations, commercial and constitutional law. And if that is not impressive enough, my favorite part of her resume is that she was an interviewer in the Israeli Defense Force, which is mind-blowing. I love that. So anyway, welcome, Maya, and go ahead.
And Maya, I just want to jump in real quick. Zev, thank you so much for that presentation. Absolutely phenomenal, great information. Maya, we all are very, very interested to hear what you have to say about the Bird Foundation. I know that we're running pretty close to our hour mark. The value of what Zev was providing, what you'll provide, Maya, is well worth a little bit extra time. So if anybody has to drop off right at the hour mark, you'll have a recording, you can jump back in. But Maya, I just want to make sure that you don't feel rushed. Take your time. We're all very interested to hear what you have to say. And it's worth running a few minutes beyond our scheduled end time. So anyways, with that, Maya, over to you. Very interested to hear what you have to say.
Oh, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me here and giving me this opportunity to present Bird. So Bird is a U.S.-Israel R&D fund established by the two governments with the goal of promoting innovation and collaboration between American and Israeli companies. Let me share my screen. Here it is. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So here it is. So Bird received an endowment by the two governments to promote innovation and collaboration between American and Israeli companies. And we do that by funding projects between American and Israeli companies. We can fund up to $1 million per project to cover 50% of the R&D costs of each company in the project. A lot of what we do is matchmaking. If the US company doesn't know an Israeli partner, we make introductions. And we do that by collaborating very closely with our good partners from the Israeli Economic Mission to the West Coast and the other economic missions in the US. And thank you for the opportunity to do this and to present Bird to Utah companies. So the Israeli Economic Mission is working under the Israeli government to promote business opportunities between American and Israeli companies as well. I would like to present our call for proposals, the upcoming calls that are published now. We are agnostic to sector. We invest in any innovative technology besides defense. We have a current call for proposals for any innovation, advanced manufacturing, ag tech, clean tech, communication, construction tech, electronics, and other areas. Everything is published on our website, and I will post in the comments our contact info and the website. We call for companies to submit an executive summary that is a short non-binding document that is based on our template. We also assist in the process, and we can provide feedback on drafts. So we highly recommend to talk to us before, even if you don't need the assistance in finding the partner. We can help with the documents themselves. The process is pretty fast for a government program. It takes about 3 to 4 months from submission to completion to decisions. Our Board of Governors, who have people from both governments, from the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and the Israeli Innovation Authority, the Israeli Chief Scientist, the State Department, Treasury, the Israeli Ministry of Finance, all on our board, will decide who to award. We have 2 special programs. One is an energy, bird energy. I don't have the current call because it just ended, but that is a program that started about 10 years ago, funded by the DOE and the Israeli Ministry of Energy. To fund energy-related project, energy efficiency, advanced manufacturing, smart mobility as well, and gas technologies. And we have a new program, Bird HLS, started in 2016 by the DHS and the Israeli Ministry of Public Security. For technologies started as first responders, expanded to be broader homeland security. And you can see in the call the areas that we are looking to fund, but this is not a closed list, so we can fund other technologies. And if companies are not sure that they're eligible, we recommend to talk to us and we can find out. If we don't know, we ask the stakeholders if it falls into the categories that they're interested in. The most important thing is that the funding is non-dilutive. We don't take any IP rights or equity. But we do ask that if the project is successful and reaches commercialization and sales, that the companies repay us back the grant, and we use that to fund the next collaboration. So we've been sustainable since the 70s, using the endowment that we received from the governments. I'll go back to my contact info and my main takeout. Please reach out to me. Send me an email, you can call me, and we'll make sure to assist you with the finding a partner and with the submission process. And oh, one more thing, and very important. We have funded already 8 projects from Utah-based companies. Last year, we funded, through the Homeland Security Program, LiveView Technologies from Orem, with the Israeli company Kawamo. So we are looking for more opportunities. We have funding to give. We would love to give it to Utah-based companies. And I would love more reasons to come visit Utah. So don't hesitate to reach out to me. And to the economic mission, to Moran Zilberstein, who's on the line. She can post her contact info, and together we can help you find a partner.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Maya, for that overview. I appreciate it. We all appreciate it. And if it's okay, we'll get, just for everybody's awareness, we'll get a copy of these slides and share those with everybody who registered today. Hello, we've had a fantastic series of webinars. Before I turn it to you for some closing thoughts, just want to give everybody a chance here. If anybody has any questions, unmute yourself, turn on your video, or don't turn on your video if you're at home in your pajamas. I just want to make sure we have a lot of firepower on the call today. Before we wrap up, I want to make sure that anybody who is interested has an opportunity to ask a question.
I would like to ask a question. This is Franz. I would like to find out about the traveling restrictions right now for Americans to Israel. Is there a waiting period? Is it possible? Is it impossible at this stage of the game right now as we speak?
If nobody has any objection, I can actually answer that for you, Franz.
Thank you, Manuel.
Although I'll just stress my business is mostly translation, but I actually happen to be an attorney who's been doing a lot of regulatory translations and explanation. The basic requirement is any foreigner, anybody entering the country is required to quarantine for 14 days. There are no real exceptions. The Ministry of Health does have, well, that's actually not exactly correct. The Ministry of Health has discretion to allow people to leave quarantine, and there is a set of protocols for foreign experts if their presence is needed to fix machinery or their expertise is needed rather in something in the healthcare industry, in the high-tech industry. There's a set of procedures. If anybody wants, I actually have sets of them. You can email me. I'll type my email momentarily. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The other thing to keep in mind is that currently the Border Control, which is through the Population and Immigration Authority, has restricted entry into the country only to citizens and residents, or people whose lives are centered in the country, again, with the exception of certain foreign experts. Did I miss anything, Zev?
Can I say a word? Can you hear me? I'd just like to add that, yes, as Emmanuel said, and I know him as a professional in translation, as he said, every person that comes to Israel is required to quarantine for 14 days. A non-Israeli citizen is limited and needs approval to come to Israel. In other words, Israeli citizens can return to Israel, and they're also obligated to 14 days quarantine, but non-Israeli, those who do not hold Israeli citizenship, have to put in a request to come to Israel. They need a reason. So if it's, for instance, a family event or a gathering or even a meeting, that's a reason. And then we, through the Consulate General of Israel here in Los Angeles, we process the request to a committee in Israel and they decide. So there is a possibility of coming to Israel. You just need a good reason. That's all.
Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. Any other questions? Last chance, going once, going twice. All right, Hillel, over to you for some closing thoughts, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this up.
Thanks. I just wanted to express my deep appreciation to the entire team in Utah for a wonderful mission. We had a wonderful trade mission. I'd like to, first of all, of course, Franz from the Director of Public Diplomacy and the International Development and Relations, together with Ben and together with the World Trade Center. Of course, Miles, thank you very much for your MC and your services in every way. The entire team, Courtney and Hannah and everyone there. Thanks so much. I'd also just like to recognize the Israeli partners, which are, of course, the Israel Export Institute, the Federation of Chambers of Commerce, the Economic Mission, which sits in San Francisco. Moran was actually supposed to speak, but she gave her place to Maya, which I'm very glad about. But I just want to mention that Moran is a focal point also for economic development of relations in the economic field. We are also in the Consulate General of Israel. Everyone can turn to us and request information or matchmaking or anything. And our email is info@la.mfa.gov.il. I'd also like to thank Maya from the Bird, and of course all the speakers and panelists. I think it was wonderful, but it's just a teaser for a real visit, and we'll be glad to facilitate such a visit when the time comes. Thank you everybody for your wonderful efforts.
Thank you very much for that. This has been truly a team effort. And again, like I said at the top, the primary purpose in my mind is Roundtable is to share some perspectives, but really everybody on the call right now, it's on all of us to help facilitate the follow-up. This positive actions can result from this. And I look forward to doing that. Just what we've been on today, I've been exchanging text messages with Spencer Cox, who won the GOP nomination for governor. So we're gonna have a new governor in January. Make sure it's clear that we have a lot of friends in Israel, a lot of business to do, a lot of partnership opportunities. And so hopefully we can take the momentum we've built over the past few days and carry that in to next year when we can all get over COVID and get back on airplanes and travel again without 14-day quarantines, so that we can do this again in Israel with a group of Utah companies. And until then, we'll continue to work virtually. Hannah is going to send out a post-event email. In there, she will include everybody who, the contact information for everybody who's shared that in chat. So we're all connected. We can follow up with each other, and we can go out and do some good for Utah's economy and Israel's economy. So thank you everybody for participating. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we look forward to when we can reconvene in person, hopefully in Israel. We'll be in touch. Thank you.